So we'll start with so-called dark patterns. Start with the definition, right? So Harry Brignall, he was the person who coined this term around about 2010. British guy. He's done podcasts, he's done articles about it. But essentially, dark patterns are tricks used in websites and apps that can make you buy or sign up for things that you didn't mean to. I'll pause for a minute. I'm sure you can start thinking of these things. A couple of examples. So Emma says, hey, this is terrible. I can't exit out of this modal at all, and it tries to force me to download your mobile app. Seriously? Victor detests notifications that direct him to open an app where nothing is happening, and he can't make it go away. So how many of us, I don't know, we might just want to call that red dot like the mosquito bite of UX, because you have to go and scratch it. But then his problem is he's getting there and there's nothing there of interest to him. Kavan, what the F is this? At interacting, you've somehow put an event in my calendar to remind me to resubscribe to your service, appearing every 3 months for the next 5 years, that I cannot delete. Angry doesn't even cover how I'm feeling. So much for user experience. So as you're seeing these examples, start thinking of the short-term motivations for doing these, the long-term impacts on reputation, right? I'd like your mind to start going there. And then I'm going to show you like the mother of all dark patterns, right? So this is an old one. This is pre-2010. It's a discount airline in UK and Europe. And you're purchasing your ticket. You get to this part where, like they ask you if you want to buy extra travel insurance. And most people don't want it. They kind of skip it. I don't know if that's true. I skip it. The only way to say no to this is to go into the list of countries and find in the list of countries where it says, don't insure me. So, and there are other versions where it's not even in alphabetical order. At least this one came after Denmark in this example, but they changed that around. This company doesn't do it anymore, but I'll talk a few minutes about the impacts of dark patterns, right? So, it's been in the news in recent months. I'm sure you remember, like when it seemed like every single thing you were using online updated its privacy policy. It's making headlines, right? So this was in TechCrunch. This study calls out dark patterns in Facebook and Google that push users towards less privacy. So, it's in the company's best interest to have as much information as possible from you. And absent of legislation, if you kind of just, I'd say most people probably just follow the easy path, and they end up giving up all sorts of permissions, and it takes the rare person to really be in tune with things to go in and fix that and protect their data. So that's one thing. And it's almost like it's coming home to roost because now there's negative press about these companies, right? This was an article written, you could see it was written in December of 2016, and it was talking about that 2016 was the year that the dark patterns had won. And there were obviously many different changes in the political landscape that year. Certainly some politicians in this country. Brexit was one. And many people started coming out criticizing Facebook, just because they were the biggest player, making it difficult for you to know the source of the news. And we have to acknowledge that these platforms that we love, Twitter, Facebook, I think those are probably the biggest ones for this. They actually benefit if you're sitting there all night long until 2 a.m. kind of drinking this stuff in, does it mean that they're doing it intentionally? I'm not going to make that accusation, but we do have to acknowledge that they benefit from your attention, right? Okay, so now we've talked about dark patterns for a little while. Everyone get a partner. There's paper, and we're going to take, maybe 5 or 10 minutes and put your heads together, come up with a dark pattern. And it can be based on something you've seen, but try to make it your own. And I'll start the time now.
So basically, you're trying to buy a product.
Trying to buy a product.
Next to it, there's like save 10%. And then when you click on that, either you go to a subscription for something, whatever, or it's like a credit card sign up thingy.
Okay.
And also you get like a strip of, you might also like these.
Okay.
I get tricked all the time. I just buy something
we all get tricked all the time.
I didn't mean to buy in the first place, but
you especially get tricked all the time.
And then maybe there are some fake reviews in the bottom saying,
okay.
I also bought something else along with this and it worked great. And
that's really dark.
Yeah, or like, tiny disclaimer on the bottom.
Pure evil.
Price may vary. Illegal stuff.
Teach
all right.
ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
And it's called Trickster Gas, where you put the regular pump on the right and the premium on the left.
Oh, so like in real life dark pattern.
Yeah,
It's like an industrial design dark pattern.
and they have the regular one colorful, like in red or green. As you go, you usually think that's a super. Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're putting in ultra high test gasoline into your car. You don't need it.
Yep.
And paying extra.
And you're paying. Well, yeah.
This one's pretty, I guess, familiar, where you sign up for a subscription. They give you the basic silver and golds, have all the different pricing here, basic being $9.99, silver being $14.99, gold being $25.99. And then, of course, if you really, really pay attention to your screen, if you look all the way down to the very far right of your screen, you see that there is a free plan. But it's in very, very, very small text. We put a box around it, but then we started thinking, forget the box, Normally it's in very fine print. And then, of course, underneath that, we actually combine some ideas here. We were saying sometimes when you want to subscribe to something, you don't want to subscribe to their newsletter, but in order for you not to subscribe to the newsletter, you have to uncheck the check box. So yeah.
Does it make a difference what the subscription is for?
I don't know. What was it
Well,
for?
think
It's
about
just-
that, or you sign up for a whole year.
You
Yeah.
sign up for a year. It doesn't matter what they're subscribing for as long as you get
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The point of this talk was not only to talk about dark patterns. There are a wide array of different persuasive techniques and shades of gray that it pays to keep in mind, and talk about some of them. So, influence, persuasion, manipulation, and coercion. Influence. I don't think we have such a negative connotation when we hear this word. The power to change or affect someone or something, the power to cause changes without directly forcing them to happen. And then there's persuasion, right? Very, very similar to influence. So it's the act of causing people to do or believe something. Now we start getting a lot more questionable. So manipulation, exerting shrewd or devious influence, especially for one's own advantage, right? his manipulation of his friends was scandalous. Okay? We start to see the difference between sort of a more acceptable persuasive technique and something which starts to become a trick. Manipulation, right? Okay. And then finally, we get to coercion, which is to make someone do something by using force or threats, right? And I think this is a good place to leave it. And we see someone coercing the bank to give him some money with a cooking knife. Yeah, she's behind glass. Start to consider some persuasive techniques, right? The hook model. This covers the fact that, you're checking your email, you've got that hook, or you're checking, your mosquito bites on the phone, those little badges. And
that pop up every
yeah, and then you find that hours have gone by. So there's the hook, right? Trigger, action, variable reward is an important part of it. And also sometimes making your user do some work. The LinkedIn profile, you start to enter your job title in the LinkedIn profile. Now you've done a little work, so you're more likely to be vested in this thing moving forward. Also, a couple of things we've spoken about tonight are friction. If you're a UX designer, you're probably working to reduce friction so there's a smoother experience for the user, right? Think about ordering an Uber, infinite scroll, autoplay. You're checking out when you buy something and your data is pre-populated in the checkout fields. A mobile order at Starbucks, you don't have to wait in line, you just go in and get it, right? Think about some other ways that you see friction reducers. And then think about the increase in friction. One of my favorite examples is, trying to quit your membership at LA Fitness. That's an increase in friction. So easy in, difficult out. I'd like you to think about this. All of the terrible, awful, horrible things that you thought of tonight. Think of how you might be able to improve them. And then I think what will happen to your fictional businesses is you'll win over longer term business. It'll be better for the future of your company, your organization, as opposed to that short little sugar rush of cash flow. You can start to win over folks' hearts and minds for the long term. That's the talk. So, thanks.